Gas prices to many people are still too high. Groceries are still expensive. What's your message to Americans?
My message is we're getting them down. I told you I'd bring them down. We're bringing it down. I come from a family where if gas prices went up or food prices went up, what happened? What happened was it was a conversation at the kitchen table. And we're doing a whole lot of other things. And by the way, the food prices, the main driver of food prices is not the price of beef and eggs, et cetera, although they're up. It's packaged goods. Packaged goods. You're going to see people not buying Kellogg's Raisin Bran, which you're going to see them buy another Raisin Bran, which would be $1 cheaper.
Oh, okay. It's not inflation; it's packaging. So yeah, when inflation is out of control, you just don't buy the fancy Kellogg's Raisin Bran. You just get the other Raisin Bran. That's what you gotta do. And you won't get Chex cereal. You'll get crispy hexagons. Kids might like eating tricks, but you can't afford that, so you just go out and get some pranks. Problem solved. Silly fox, pranks are for kids. Biden impoverished kids. I'm sure the Kellogg's people really appreciate Biden's comment. They're just like the oil companies, right? They're cereal gougers.
It was a conversation at the kitchen table.
Yeah, one thing I can guarantee, never in his life did Joe Biden ever have a single conversation about gas prices or food prices at the kitchen table. What a friggin' hack. All politicians need to stop talking about the kitchen table. And I promise you, Joe never had to have a bowl of crispy hexagons or pranks. The only economic issues discussed at the table is when they're divvying up their bribe money.
Vice President Harris, how's she doing? You're almost 2 years in. How's she doing?
She's doing great. She is first of all, she's smart as hell. She has a backbone like a ramrod. And
Welcome to unfortunate word choice. She's got a backbone like a ramrod. Yeah, that's the word on the street. She's got a backbone that's withstood a lot of ramrods. That's how she got here.
Who doesn't love a yellow school bus, right? Can you raise your hand if you love a yellow school bus, right? Just, there's something about and most of us, many of us went to school on the yellow school bus, right?
Right? You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see DeSantis send another yellow school bus full of illegals to her house, right? Who speaks like this, by the way, with all this desperate, phony, perky energy? One seriously nauseating thought, after they get shellacked in the midterms, after the dust settles, she's gonna end up being the president.
No!
Yes. She won't be elected, that's for sure, but she's gonna be president anyway. It's in the cards. Or it's in the race cards, I should say. Elon Musk has Twitter now, and I'm guessing it's not gonna be the conservative nirvana that everybody thinks it is. Which would mean just a level playing field, by the way. After seeing some videos, I can't say I'm impressed with Twitter's employees.
Welcome to a day in my life as a Twitter employee. So this past week, went to SF for the first time at a Twitter office.
My schedule is lunch, foosball, censor conservatives, free swim, arts and crafts, snack, more censoring. Quick word, everybody. See the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner? I need you to click on that, like right now. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thanks. Let's declare a pandemic amnesty, says The Atlantic. We need to forgive one another for what we did and said when we were in the dark about COVID. Wrong! No. Gonna have to carry a grudge about this one. The ostracizing, the lost businesses, jobs, suspension of life and economics, the whole hypocrisy, using the word science to stop our kids from learning actual science. Big Brother was replaced by Big Doctor. Or actually not so Big Doctor. Can you attend a wedding, a birthday party, a funeral? Not only were these questions people had to ask, the answer was often no. And people are still masking up in their own car. There's people who are still wondering if it's okay to visit their family for Thanksgiving. This is what happens when the government treats you like a shelter dog. It should not be forgiven.
You know, Mrs. Dixon says that I kept students out longer than any other state. That's just not true. I worked closely with my Republican and Democratic governors, and kids were out for 3 months.
Yeah, she's lying. The tyrants like Michigan Governor Whitmer over here, with her Fauci worship pillow, said after a year that kids could maybe go back to school if 70% of the adults were vaccinated.
We follow the protocols and we stay smart and we get to that 70% of our adults vaccinated. I think it is very likely that all schools could be fully in person by this fall.
So it wasn't 3 months. She must be using some sort of special reverse dog year math. A year and a half, 2 years to us, is just 3 months in lying-ass politician years. The tyrants know perfectly well that there will be no amnesty. So it's just easier to lie, especially since they can just wrap themselves in a mainstream media cocoon where lies will never be exposed. More cult behavior in the name of science. It's the anti-oil people. Great. They glue themselves to artwork? Fine. I'll glue my gas receipts to them. Because of all the anti-fossil fuel measures, they've made fuel prohibitively expensive. The real climate change will be people who would be otherwise warm will now be freezing their ass off in their own home. Here's some more cultish science.
Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming health care?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. As a moral question and as a legal question.
Notice the omission here. The words children and minors are missing. No one cares what adults do to themselves. They do care about children. Another thing on this, if you, quote, misgender someone, remember, to leftists, that's considered an act of violence because trans people tragically commit suicide. You might remember this exchange with Senator Hawley.
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing them.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide. So I think it's important
because of my line of questioning? So we can't talk about it?
Because denying that trans people exist and pretending not to know that they exist
I'm
is
denying that
dangerous.
trans people exist by asking you if you're talking about women having pregnancies?
Do you believe that men can get pregnant?
No, I don't think women can get
So you are
pregnant.
denying that trans people exist?
And that leads to violence? Is this how you run your classroom? Or
So if criticism equates to violence due to suicide, I'd mention that police disproportionately commit suicide versus any other profession. Do you think that would make any difference to a leftist in terms of how they frame their language about cops?
No!
That is correct. So that Paul Pelosi attack was interesting, wasn't it? A guy in his underwear from Berkeley, a nudist, a hemp jewelry maker, attacked Mr. Pelosi with a hammer. I have to believe the word hammer might be code for dildo.
Every once in a while, it's a dildo.
He was armed with zip ties and a bootleg copy of the movie Bros. Of course, the narrative doesn't add up. And whenever we're told to just shut up and accept the narrative, we probably shouldn't. But no video seems to be available. Don't the Pelosis have a Ring doorbell camera? I would think so. Also, does it seem likely that one of the highest officers in the country would be vulnerable to attack from a freak in his underwear?
No!
Maybe the Pelosis have one of those Epstein security systems. There's a lot of bugs with that system, so there you go.
Hi, good night, everybody.
Then you got Frankenstroke over here. Look, I'm sure he's an inspiration to millions of youngsters with Tourette's, but you gotta draw the line somewhere, don't you?
What do you think the biggest cause of inflation is, and should the Biden administration be doing more?
That simply is also, we have this talk about the trillions in massive tax cuts to the corporate tax structure as well. True. Hi, good night, everybody.
Do Pennsylvanians really want a senator who's going to ask you to tell you about the rabbits?
That's what I always wanted, my own little bunny rabbit.
To me, is about fighting for everyone in Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down.
There's no shortage of Pennsylvanians getting knocked down, or kicked, or punched, or robbed, or curb stomped, mugged, raped. Not because of his mental health, because his policies are mentally ill. The gaslighting tyrants all need to lose and lose big. That includes transitioning Martin Short over here, who doesn't understand why criminals need to be locked up.
He still hasn't talked about locking up anyone committing any crimes.
Okay.
Anyone who commits a crime under our laws, especially with the change they made to bail, has consequences. I don't know why that's so important to you.
You only get a chance to get rid of the tyrants once in a while. So when you have the opportunity, you have to make that happen. If you use science to dehumanize your own citizens, and you turn out to be just as wrong as they said you were, you need to go away. If you treat the border with all the intensity of a Walmart greeter, you need to be deported from office. If enabling insanity is your thing, you need a pink slip. And we do make it pink for the inclusivity. If people are being shoved in front of trains and your policy is a shoulder shrug, then you need to be thrown under the bus. Joe is warning you that democracy is threatened. As if the Democrats weren't in control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency for the last 2 years. The results have been hideous. Yes, democracy is threatened. But it won't be particularly threatened until around 2 a.m. on election night. Thanks for watching. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe. Be sure to pass around to anybody who might like my content. And I'll see you the next time.